this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Kitchen time. Some outstanding jobs. If I'm going to make a mess, I'd rather just make one mess and clear up once. So quite a few different things going on here. There's the giant dendrobium, which is, I always forget, but luckily it has a label on it. Chrysotoxum. It's the one we had the big debate about, because although the blooms look right, the plant didn't. But nonetheless, I'm convinced the tag is correct. I've got a feeling there may be more than one plant in here. Just looking at the way we have a cluster of canes coming out here and then some more over here, but it could be an extended rhizome. But I want this out of the pot because I'm not happy about the size of the pot for that type of dendrobium. There aren't many dendrobiums that do well in giant pots. They like their roots tight, cozy, and that's almost across the board. You know, even the Latorias types that need to stay moist all the time, they still like to be cozy. There's just something about the way they grow, and they don't tend to do so well in giant pots, and that is a hell of a pot. I mean, that's a cymbidium pot, hence the extra depth. You know, I mean, it's got that much extra depth on it. I don't know what it's in, but the first job is to rescue the ferns. There's two little ferns in there. Now, I love ferns, and I know where the owner of this grows her plants, so those ferns can get potted up and actually go in the grow room. You know, I mean, they may survive outdoors, but I don't want to risk it. They've lived their life, probably germinated in that pot from other plants in the greenhouses, and that's what they're used to. So I'm quite happy to maintain their environment as they've grown so far. So we get the little ferns out and pot them up separately and see what's in the pot, because I've got no idea what's in that pot. That could be an extensive root system. It may have next to no roots. We'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be a bit of a job. It's quite a size. And then going from the big to the ridiculously small. This is my Dendrobium loddigessii, and I want the kikis off, as there are quite a few nicely established kikis at the moment with nice root systems. Yeah? And there's quite a few on here. I've yet to decide what I'm going to do with them. They'll probably end up getting mounted because this plant is growing incredibly well on its mount, so it obviously likes that type of growing environment, so it's probably best to just replicate it. They probably would grow in a pot. But this is one that, you know, needs the winter rest, and it's more difficult with a pot to do that, simply because I don't keep mine totally dry in the winter. They do get a drop of water now and again to stop them desiccating, which on a mount is really easy to do, because I can just put a trickle of water sort of round the outside where the bare roots are, and not even get the moss wet, and just give them just a little top up. Well, in a pot that's quite difficult to do, because, you know, if you water a pot, you've watered it. So that might be a little bit too much for their winter rest, so I should probably mount them. And then this Restrepia kills two birds with one stone. This should have been repotted quite a long time ago. This is not a good time of year to mess about with the roots on a cool grower, but this has been in its pot a long time. I'm not even going to tell you how long. A very long time. Probably since I got it. It has an extensive root system, yeah, but that media is starting to get a bit niffy when I water it. It's been in there far too long. I mean, it's grown into a nice plant, but recently I have got some distorted new leaves coming out, which means it's not hydrating as well as it needs to. So I think some fresh media with quite a high percentage of moss in it will sort of get that one going again, albeit the wrong time of year. Best time to do cool growers really is in early spring, when they're in their comfort zone. That gives them a chance to establish themselves before they've got to put up with, well, the heat that they get in my place anyway, which they don't like. But some of the leaves aren't coming out too bad, but it needs a repot, and it kills two birds with one stone, because I've got to send Roger some plants, the Swapsies element of my Mackay, which is doing really well. So all she wanted was a few Restrepia kikis, but I think, you know, actually by splitting this plant I can actually get a piece with some decent roots on and get it potted up, and then obviously it's got to survive transport, so there's no way I'm posting at the moment in the middle of a heat wave with a cool grower that's just been potted, so it's going to have to wait until the weather breaks, and then we'll have a go. And I've got a few other things I'll include, which I don't want to say because I'd like some of them to be a surprise. So that's the task for today, kitchen time, and I'll be back when I've got all my stuff ready and things like that, and made another coffee and whatnot. Just getting myself organised. Right, let's make a start. I'll get this one out first. There's my tag. Oh. Well, there was one. It's around somewhere. Oh, this is dry. Good. These are very fine root systems on, let's put up the noise. Very fine root systems on the Strepias. There's still some dampness in the middle. There's a lot of dead roots in the middle of this. As I say, this has been in its pot far too long, and it's a bit niffy, and it's at the point where the media is going to start taking these roots down. It may have already made a start. Most of this will have to come off under the tap. Just looking at what I used, obviously, it's got quite... Oh, the large bark would have been the crocking in the bottom of the pot, which the roots did actually get down into. Bear that in mind. If the roots are going to go deeper than I expect them to, then I need better media for them to get into, not crocking. These are supposed to stay hydrated. So I'll get the worst of it off, and then it can go under the tap. And this is a single plant. There are a few kikis that were poked in down the side last time I repotted it. Those will come out as separate plants now, like that. There's a nice little plant there, two in fact. So there may be a few around the edge that will separate off, but chances are I'm just going to split this straight down the middle into two separate plants. Give it a good rinse under the tap. There's another kiki that was put in separate there on the edge. It's grown its own set of roots. Come out. So there's another nice little plant there. So there's two. There's a pot full. There's a new pot full. And if I find enough of those to take off round the edge, then what's left will be the main plant. It's not really a kiki. Actually it is. It's two little ones. That one's not got that good a root system. Where did the other bit go? The other bit isn't really worth saving, I don't think. It's just a single leaf, but it would grow probably. Anyway, there's some separate bits. The kikis form at the base of the leaf where the blooms come out from. Blooms come out from underneath a leaf. If you look at that leaf, that's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blooms on it, and there's another one coming. There's another one just starting. So they bloom, some bloom many times from the same leaf. Again here, 1, 2, 3 and a new one coming. And that one has already formed a kiki. So these blooms are coming on the kiki that's grown out from the base of the leaf. That's their, in the main, their growth pattern. They don't all do that. Some of them don't produce kikis very easily. And some create a kiki at virtually every leaf joint given the right level of humidity and that. So we'll give that a good clean up. As I say, I'm just going to make one lot of mess, clean that up, and then we'll get on to potting. So that's the Restrepias. You can go in the sink. There's quite a bit of good plant there. Obviously the kikis coming off of there I don't need to worry about. What I do need to worry about is this monster. This is going to be fun. This is going to make a lot of mess, I think. First job, get the ties off and the stakes out. They just lend themselves nicely to poking you in the eye. Stake, that's a pole. Massive stake, but then this is a heavy, sturdy plant. Let's get these out of the way. There's another couple in here. The plant was staked to put the blooms as close together as possible for showing. That's the reason this was staked, not to hold the plant upright. It does that quite adequately on its own, but the canes were brought together that were blooming to try and get the blooms clustered, not by me, but you know, it's a way of being more impressive when you're going to put it in for showing, is to get the blooms together, so it looks like it's got more for some reason. Right, let's see what's going on in the pot. Keep the tag. I hope this is going to come out, and the roots have actually gone right down to the bottom. This could be fun. That's loosened it a bit. There are some active root tips, which is a nuisance because they're right down the bottom of the pot. Polystyrene chippings, which I don't like. They're perfectly adequate for crocking, but they have no weight, and as such they don't lend any stability to the pot. And all of my old potting compost goes straight out under the hedge, and so I just found the bottom of a stake that's rotted off. Oh, it hasn't rotted off, it was just a different colour, I didn't see it. So I don't use them because it means I've got to pick them out before I can throw the stuff on the garden, because I don't want all those white chippings out on the garden. And Lynn said that this is, when I asked her how long it's been in the pot, she went, quite a while. Nonetheless, this media hasn't broken down in any shape or form. That's still quite fresh. Stop bending over. But we've certainly got a good root system on here. And it's funny, in amongst the dendrobium roots are these little tiny fine ones, which I was just starting to get a bit worried about, but that's the fern. So we'll rescue that straight away, because I'm potting that up. And there's another one right in the middle, which that's not going to come out until I get the worst of this out. And this has all the hallmarks of not all the old media was got off when it was repotted. Another bit of stake. Yeah, I've got solid lumps at the base of this. How many plants have I got here? Have I actually got multiple plants? It's difficult to tell. I'm pretty confident there's 2 plants here. So I'll untangle it and get it to all point in one direction. It looks like, if you look here, there's a cluster of canes all coming from a central point, and then these over here are not. Oh, there's two smashing new growths coming over there that I hadn't noticed because they were buried in the media. I don't see any on this bit. Is this a separate piece? Yeah, it is, but it's not. This isn't going to come apart without getting it under the tap and getting the worst of it off. And I haven't got a clue what I'm going to put this in. Whatever it goes in needs to be stable. Yeah, this part of the plant is very old. Most of the roots have gone, and it's got a real woody base to it with very little active roots coming out. So that part of the plant becomes a rescue, whether it likes it or not. And as such, so I've got to watch those new growths now. I know they're there. Yeah, I'm going to have to do this under the sink, so I'll give the root base a good clean up and get that other little fern out from the middle if I can, and then I'll be back when I've had a good clean up. As I say, there's no work to do on this. This is just a matter of taking the kikis off, and I'm going to mount them. I'm not going to pot them. So it's just a matter of selecting the ones. I'll have to go and find them out, and I'll be back when I've got myself sorted. But yeah, there are some good roots on here, and nearly all of them. I'm going to stand the thing up again so that you can see the base. If you have a look, this section of the plant here hasn't got many active roots on. God knows what that is. There's a lump of something in there. It's like wood. I think that's the original base. And then either the plant has crept across and started to grow here. There's the new growths. You can see them now. We need to look after those. And this is where the active root system is. Yeah, on this part of the plant. So chances are I'm going to separate it, whether it wants to separate or not, because I want that as a plant, as a standalone plant, with its new growths and its good root system. And I'd rather the other part of the plant was treated as a rescue to try and encourage some new growths. So it's going to be 2 plants. That's 2 flipping large pots I've got to try and find room for. Yeah, this root system's dead over here. I think that was just potted too deep. You know, I mean, the base of the plant's down here. That's ridiculously deep. Come on, Lynn, you should know better than that. Anyway, I'll give it a good clean up and then come back when I'm sorted out, found some pots and got my media sorted. Yeah, I'm going to separate those into 2 plants. Definitely, I'll be back.